Hey friend, welcome back to The Word with Wit. In today's video, I am going to be talking about dating, more specifically using discernment when dating. However, if you're not dating, this video can still help you because I'm also going to be talking about how to just have discernment in general for all of the relationships that you may have in your life, whether it be mentors, friends, assignments, all the things. So just being able to recognize people's intentions and if they are someone that God has called you to or vice versa. So let's get right into it. So I don't know how long you've been in the dating world, but I can tell you just from my little experience in the Christian dating world, it is ghetto out here. I know that it seems like it would be easier whenever you're talking about dealing with believers, but we know that everyone who proclaims themselves to be a believer is not a believer. And even in that, if they are a believer, they may not be equally yoked with you. So you may both believe the same thing. You may both believe in God. However, your purposes, your goals for your life, your values just don't really line up. So of course, those are easier things to recognize because you can look at someone and say, okay, we're not going in the same direction. We don't have the same goals. Believe it or not, there are still Christians out there that are not practicing abstinence. So if you're like me and you're waiting until marriage, that can be hard because you're dealing with people who haven't fully committed and surrendered their heart to God or surrendered that area of their life to God. Or maybe they just don't have the self-control just yet. And obviously, if you have already kind of learned to get that part of your life under control, it will be really hard to date someone who hasn't because they're going to tempt you. And unfortunately, if your goals don't align, it's going to be really hard for both of you to stay committed to God and to stay surrendered to Him in that area if you don't have the same values. This brings us to the first tip. Please recognize that everything that looks good is not good. So the Bible tells us that Satan himself poses as an angel of light. And if he's posing as an angel of light, you can guarantee that anyone coming to you in an effort to take you off course from your goals is not going to necessarily look evil. They're not going, and not to say that some of them don't, because some of them will come straight out with what they want and their expectations. But for the most part, if you are making it known that you are a believer and that you're waiting for marriage, usually they're going to try to act supportive of that. However, you'll notice that they're pushing your boundaries quite a bit. They're taking you out of your comfort zone. For me personally, I don't do the kissing and the handsy stuff and all of that. But if you're dealing with someone who is not practicing abstinence, they may not understand. They may say things like, where is your self-control? Why can't we kiss? Why can't we hug? Why can't we be laid up? Why can't we cuddle? Because they really don't understand that having self-control is not saying I have enough will to be in the most tempting situation and still not fall into temptation. Having self-control is actually setting boundaries in place that will keep you from falling into sin, knowing your limits and knowing what will lead you into sin, and recognizing that you can't give the enemy any foothold. You can't allow him to have any room to work, otherwise you will fall right into sin every single time. Trust me, this abstinence journey has been rough for me. Especially in the beginning, I really struggled. I didn't even think it was possible. And then as I got better with the help of the Lord, of course, I still struggled and I still wondered if I would ever be able to abstain. However, over time, the mistakes became less frequent and I learned I can't push certain boundaries and think that I'm going to be able to abstain. So really seeing my brothers in Christ as a brother and not pushing those boundaries, not trying to test the limits. If he's not my husband, we don't need to do all that. You know, we can get to know each other on a real level. We can become friends first and get to know each other on a deeper level, have that true relationship. I don't know about you all, but I've been in a marriage and I've done long-term dating relationships where it just, if there wasn't a friendship in the beginning, you realize later on after the sex has worn off that you don't have anything in common. So just remember, everything that looks good is not good. Even if their words say they are supportive of your abstinence journey and supportive of your values and things like that, if their actions aren't lining up, if they're constantly pushing your boundaries, you need to take a step back and realize like this probably isn't the best situation for me. Another thing I've learned to do early on is to pray about every relationship that comes into my life. So that's whether it's a friendship, a dating relationship, or mentor, or anything, just praying and asking God to give me discernment about this person as well as them, because I don't want to push them past their limit. I don't want to tempt them and make them do things that they have been convicted about, and I don't want them doing that to me. So just praying and asking God about each situation, because a lot of things that look good are not necessarily God, and sometimes we get caught up in doing things that are good, like this is a good person, they do this and I like that about them and blah blah blah. However, it's not necessarily what God has sent for you. So really praying and asking God for wisdom in those situations is so important. As I said before, it is ghetto out here, and we just have to really be in prayer at all times about these relationships. I know it seems so simple, and I know sometimes we don't even want to pray because we don't want God to say no. But personally, I would rather God tell me no and I walk away than for me to fall in love with this person fall in love with me, and then later on we realize, okay, we're not equally yoked, and have to break things off and both of us end up hurt. So it's better to go ahead and get it over with if you're gonna have to say no anyway. So just, listen. To be transparent with you all, I have had people coming out of the woodworks, out of nowhere. It's like the enemy said, oh, she got a divorce, let me send all these people her way. And I honestly believe that he's trying to distract me from my purpose, because God has called me in this season. I don't know if you all have noticed, I've been off social media, and I think that he is trying to keep me distracted because God has told me that I need to have this quiet time with him. So I removed myself from social media so that I could have time to focus on him. But then I end up dealing with all these different distractions, whether it's friendships, people trying to date, and all the things. It's like boom, boom, boom. And if you are in a quiet season, honestly, it can be boring. Sometimes it's hard to sit still. I don't know about you, but for me, it is hard to just sit and be still and be quiet and just listen for God. So in those quiet times, sometimes I feel lonely, and I'll, respond to messages or texts or whatever that I shouldn't even be responding to, for real. But either way, I still prayed and I asked God for the truth. I asked God to reveal the truth about the friendship or about the person specifically. And let me just tell y'all, the Holy Spirit does not play. Like, you may overlook some things, but he's going to make sure once you say that prayer, he's going to make sure you see it. And once you see it, it's up to you to do what you need to do, because he's not going to always remove people from your life. Sometimes you have to do the work. And even if he does remove those people from your life, a lot of times they will try to come back around whenever you are lonely or whatever, and it's going to be tested, like I talked about in another video. So that situation is going to come back around, and you have to really know that this is not what I want. And for me, he has been saying no, like no, and just stopping me in my tracks in a sense. So I prayed about these situations, and within 24 hours, God was like, nope, and showed me why and everything. So like he gave me the wisdom to know that that isn't the right situation for me. And in that moment, I had to make the decision, although sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't want to know. Sometimes I didn't. I really was just hoping God would say yes and that would be it, and everything would go great. But God was like, no, now what are you gonna do with that? And him doing that really just reminds me of chapter 1 verse 5 through 8. It says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith with no doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. And that last verse in the NLT says something a little different, and I just like the way it was put, but it says their loyalty is divided between God and the world, and they are unstable in everything they do. So the first translation was ESV, this last one was the NLT. The NLT just, it's kind of easier to understand than the ESV at times, but the ESV is a more accurate translation, so it's my preferred reading one. But I know that people from various stages of their journey are on this channel, so I try to share from the NLT because it's easier for a newer person to, or someone new to the faith, to understand. So anyways, that verse just says everything. If you ask God for wisdom, He will give it to you, but you have to be willing to act on it. Don't ask Him something that you're going to doubt. Like if you're going to ask Him and then not have faith in what He has told you, you may as well not even ask Him. If you're going to ask Him and He says no and you're going to still stay with the person, you may as well not even ask. Make sure that if you're going to ask, you're going to act on whatever He tells you. And that has been what I've learned to do. And it has been so helpful because I'm not out here wasting time. I'm actually going to God and saying, God, is this friendship from you, or is it, you know, just a distraction, or is it something that, you know, may be good, just not the best situation for me right now? And whenever He tells me no, whenever He reveals what He reveals, I have to be willing to say, okay, well, you know, all right, I'm gonna have to distance myself from this person, or I'm gonna have to let this person know, like, this isn't going to work for me. And He's been on me about being honest as well, and I'm going to do a video on that also. But ask, expect an answer, and be ready to take action. To wrap up this video, I just want to remind you that as you're in the world, be sure to remember that everything that looks good is not good, and also remember to pray and ask for wisdom and discernment in these situations, and be willing to move on that. That's really all I wanted to talk about today. If you like this video, be sure that you share it with someone you think it may help. Also, like this video and subscribe so that you are notified whenever I post new videos. I love you, and I will see you soon, friend. Be blessed.